section, and already we've had the juniors go down. We're going to go in and out of the program. We're going to pick up some of the action of these riders. They started up there 1,420 meters above sea level. We'll pick up the riders now to give you some idea of the circuit they're on now. But we're also going during the day to bring you some of the action from Friday and Saturday when we had the cross-country racing as well. So this is Eurosport's coverage of what is turning out to be a cracking weekend's activity. The course now, thank goodness, has dried out somewhat. Let me tell you here in this lovely sunshine that in fact on Monday 20 hours of non-stop rain turned the course into an absolute out-and-out quagmire, and many of the riders were complaining bitterly about the circumstances, and some of the riders on Friday in the cross-country section and again on Saturday morning were finding things not at all to their liking. But the course has dried out yesterday, lovely sunshine. Today, lovely sunshine and the wind, which has made it that much faster than in qualifications. Qualifying, in fact, became virtually a survival, not only of the fittest, but to make sure that you had no major mechanical problems on what turned out to be a very tricky course indeed, with rocks being exposed by the rain, and as they hit the rocks with their front and back wheels, despite the suspension system, riders were puncturing left, right and centre. Dave Cunningham, the world champion, punctured. Jason McCroy from Great Britain punctured both tyres as well, and so it went on. Well, the crowd here getting very excited indeed by the activity, and we're going to in fact be also showing you then, after some of this early stuff here, the top 20 of the men, because we're now getting through the activity as the riders coming down this slope here. That's the bridge, by the way. It's about something like about 200 to 300 meters after the start. Let's follow this one down. If we go all the way through, in fact, now our camera always drops backwards and forwards and confuses everybody by picking up different parts of the course. There, the finish. Well, that's the start. That's simple enough to see. And a nice little berm there built, by the way. And then they go over a jump off here where there's some rocks. Until yesterday, this part was just deep in cloud. As I went down the course yesterday, walked the whole thing, took me an hour and a half to walk down, slipping down on my backside more time than soft mick. But today, much better conditions. We're now further on down the course as well. I can imagine how this was when the mud was slipping all over the place. And obviously the French going extremely crazy here, because this is one of the French riders. And they're the catch nest to catch the unwary rider. And that's it, cross the finishing line. Now this little part is just, we go back again. I'm just waiting, in fact, till we pick up some of the bushes. We haven't actually seen that particular part of the course. These are the 3 whoops that have been put in, and we're going back again up to the top end of the field. Producer nipping backwards and forwards all the time. We started, by the way, this morning at 9:30 with these riders. Started with the veterans. We had the junior men as well. And good news for France as far as they're concerned, by the way, in the downhill section for the junior men. Nicolas Voulois was the out-and-out victor. Came down there at some 36.6 kilometers per hour. It took 5 minutes 4.6 seconds to come down. The Scott rider, Klausmann from Germany, was in second spot this morning in the junior section, and his time then was 5:4.8, so just 0.02 of a second between those two. And Karim Armour of France took the third spot, with the 4th medal going to Ulego from Spain. Those are the top 4 today. We'll pick out some of the other riders for you. I'm just looking out here. Chris Poyser of Great Britain finished in 14th place. A few people back in Great Britain. Mark Weaver finished in 20th place. These are all provisional, by the way, subject to later on getting the information confirmed by the judges as such. But that's some of the quick rundowns on what's happened so far on the descent. We started this morning, I say, at some 9:30. To an early start, and of course these riders here and the thousands of people, I can tell you, just getting accommodation within 50-mile radius of this place has been virtually impossible. Well, So we're watching the live action at the moment, but we're going to go back, as I said earlier on, to take us through some of the top men that have started and have already come on down, because these are some of the later starters now, so we're going to nip back in time to bring you the action that happened earlier on when we got the top men on the course. That just gives you some idea then of the... that's it, there's the first rider coming down here now, the Belgian rider Jaduta. We're going back in time. This is Jaduta coming down for Belgium. And next one to go after Jaduta will be Greg Herbold, ex-world champion. So Herbold next to go down. Greg Herbold, winner in 1990. And everybody looking for a nice vantage point. Everybody in shirt sleeve order here. I can tell you yesterday morning it was a matter of going up there with... in fact, Herbold has gone down now because we're looking up there. And we're still coming back on down to Jaduta. That was the Japanese rider Yaningara at the top of the slope. And here, first man to come down then, Taras Jaduta of Belgium, and there we are, tricky part this course. They have seeded these riders, by the way. Technically this man here should be looking for a medal, but I don't think he's going to be. He's one of those who survived the qualification times on what, a couple of days ago. What was it, on Wednesday? I've lost track of time now, by the way, because what they had to do with all these riders, first of all, was that the riders who entered the World Championship that weren't part of the national teams got an opportunity to test themselves down the course, because of the numbers of riders, we've got 150 senior men. The entries from nations didn't take up the full 150, so other lone riders were able to enter the event, and provided they qualified in speed, then they segregated them and put them in then to the next series. The next series was a full 150 who came down to make sure that they could then see the international riders as well. So that's what went on. And I say difficult conditions. They were just coming. In fact, they were actually running down parts of the course on qualifying on Tuesday and Wednesday. It was that mucky and that bad. It was just impossible, I can tell you. So Yanigara from Japan, riding for Dirt Brothers. Looking back into the woody part of the course. And our cameras aren't picking up some of that atrocious conditions there. I can tell you, because the trees shield the sun and the wind doesn't get in there, then unfortunately it gets very slippy indeed amongst the rocks, and it's not drying out at all. And in fact, I was talking to Wayne Crosdale yesterday, Crazy Wayne himself, Insane Wayne, and he was saying it's going to be most interesting. Hands up because he's punctured. I told you about hitting those rocks, is so he's just going to show off his front wheel flick. In fact, that looked to me like Greg Herbold. Let's go back to that one, I hope. If it's him, that's bad luck. That's him out of the frame. But I'm sure that was Greg himself. Well, that's De Silva from France. Back then with Belgian rider here. Coming down into finish. This is Jaduta, the first man to finish. Well, at least he's going to be first for a short period of time. And if Greg Herbold has punctures, as I rather think he has done, then that's going to make it very unfortunate as far as he's concerned, having travelled all the way here for this one. 2510, that... Nicolas Gourmand from France getting a good cheer on his way down. Let's hope we pick up the next ride in the start 10, because Albert Eichten is the next to go, 2195, and I can tell you that Eichten did a tremendous ride in the cross country as well. If I can find amongst all my thousands of notes here, I can just tell you what it is. We're going to cover that later on. And Albert Eiton, in fact, in the in the men's section overall, finished in 5th place. He managed to get himself into about 4th at one point, but Eiton, downhill a specialist, ex-world champion, yesterday finished in 5th place in the men's section. I won't tell you the results of that yet because we're going to show it you later on in the program. So hang on in there, and I'll tell you what actually happened in the men's race too. Well, he's in all sorts of trouble there. Greg Herbold. That is a great disappointment for the ex-world champion. I said he punctured, and he's absolutely disgusted with that one. He's come all the way from the US of A, and Greg Herbold now sidelined by that puncture, and that's the problem. The rocks that are here on the course, just catching the unwary ones. They really have to hammer down here. I can tell you when that junior time, just think about that, Nicholas Vull has come down here in 5 minutes 4.6 seconds, and they start at 1,420 meters above sea level and drop down here. And our cameras doesn't pick up exactly the nature of those rocks. There was some very rough stuff indeed. At this particular point, they've come out of what we call the quarry, the great big quarry face, and then right, he lost it onto the bridge. Oh my goodness, there's a bridge there. If he'd gone a bit left, he'd gone straight underneath because there's a very special man-made bridge there, and he's now on the descent again. The course, having crossed over where the cross-country race was yesterday, and that little bridge had been built, and he went a bit all 6s and 7s on that one. Japanese rider then just finishing, Yashura Yanagihara. And that was Albert Eiton on his way down. We had a quick brief look at him. I hope our producer picks him up then, because Eiton wears number 2195. If you're looking on your screens and picking him out, then they're flicking backwards and forwards. 2195 Eiton is his number. Well, Eiton rides for Wheeler, and this man's a Chilo one, so it's another of the, in fact, this is going to be 2196. It's Thomas from Switzerland, and going back up the top, treble 25. In fact, that's treble 3, that's John Tomac it is, surely, yes, but the Bold John is not riding in the American colours. He's got it, yes. It's John Tomac himself then, swinging this bike round. Well, he didn't do too well yesterday in the men's race. I'm picked him up now by his quite unusual style of riding. He's punching away on the bike here. This is a bit where he slightly goes uphill, and then they go into a very, very difficult part through the trees. As he zigs round down, disappears into those trees, and we come offside. I can tell you that's full of rocks, full of rubbish, and it's very, very slippy indeed. Quick look there. Tomac, in fact, out the frame yesterday, not in the top 18 on the classification from the results yesterday. John was way down one time around about 11th, but towards the end I lost complete track of him. And again, this is a big drop round to the left and in towards the quarry. Back with the Chilo rider. So this be Urs Thomas of Switzerland. There's Tomac, good, we pick up the Bold Tom. John Tomac himself then. Hits those whoops and flies. That's Tomac in full tilt. Let's hope he comes down without any trouble at all. This man is just going like crazy. He didn't have the opportunity yesterday, as many of the riders did, to test this course because there were so many of them that were out there testing the course while he was riding the senior race. So that's a bit difficult then as far as he's concerned. So for poor John, he didn't get the chance. Here he comes now to test this course. So Tomac then, winner of the cross-country in 1991. Not of the greatest of seasons so far this year, John, but he won one of the Grundig downhills as well when he wore a very slinky black downhill skiers type outfit to help him cut through the air. And I think this is Vincent Julot of France now, 2314. And Tomac setting off then, a couple of minutes in front of him. Oh, he's missed his pedals. And the Italian rider on his way down, that's Migliorini. We didn't see him start. Another nice big view of the course for you. This is the Irish rider. I think, in fact, we flicked back Collins Bechenot, but we missed out on him. Well, I wonder what's happening down here. 2501 Da Silva. Now there we are with the Irish rider. So this is Dalge of France again. Many of these riders riding in very much similar to BMX clothing, these nylon pants with lots of padding in case they come a box of tricks. This is John Tomac. Back wheel spinning a bit, let's hope he hasn't punctured. Tomac favouring the Tioga disc wheel at the back. It's got spokes in it as well, they're special sort of nylon type spokes, combination of a disc wheel and spokes. Tomac, his grip shift system working very well indeed, keeps his hands on the handlebars so that he can flick him round, rides for rally Tioga, and he's got that one wide, he's had to pull it in. Tomac really is putting on the pressure now. He's got to be so keen to get a medal at this one. He didn't get one yesterday in the cross country, and Tomac is really powering along. He's come through the quarry section, sharp round the corner, over that top of that banking. Is he going to do it? Yes, straight over there. The wood makes it very slippy indeed, but he's got that one. And virtually it's all downhill from here. There's some quick flicks and lefts and a few jumps, but John's on his way down. Let's hope we see him hit that finish line. I'll come back to you with the official results as we get them handed in, by the way. Our commentary point had been a bit bereft of the normally we get the old clock going on descents, but they seem sometime for this reason not to clock the major riders, but I'll repair that omission for you later on when I get a list of these times and they're coming in. So the Irish rider just coming to finish here, Collins Bechenot. That's him. And back up then to top, Belgian rider now, Patrick Maes. Well, there's a famous name, I tell you. Maes, M-A-E-S, Patrick Maes, because the other Maes used to make handlebar bends many years ago when I was a young lad, and everybody had a Maes handlebar bend. Great rider he was. In fact, he died some years ago, and there have been offers to buy his bicycles, and some of his medals have just been advertised in Lake Heap of all things. But we're back with John Tomac, flicking his bike, and this man, ex-BMX rider, ex-rider for 7-Eleven, a roadman as well, hits the line too, and wishing the best luck. He's made it all the way down, no punctures, no problems, he's all in one piece. Tomac, well, it's about wind resistance. He's forgotten to shave again this morning. The beard, a new symbol of Mr. Tomac, and you can see everybody rushing around here to pick up some information from the lad. And he's pretty exhausted by that one, I can tell you. Tomac then, breathing heavy with the exertion of that descent. So he's showing off. Well, they can do it when you're in the air, but you've got to come down square and get your bike nice and straight, otherwise you're in all sorts of troubles. The French crowd here roaring on. Looks like Vincent Julio. Tomac's finished, and then that's Migliorini just finished. He's another useful rider, by the way, up in the Grundig series so far this year. He's always been finishing in the top three when he's been riding, so that's going to be another good time to watch out for. And back then with Paolo Alvaro is the next one to come down for Italy. Etienne Dalge of France. The official French team, you see them riding here in this red, white and blue colour, that's the official French colour. Other French riders that are taking part were not selected by the federation, and the same thing happened of course with Jenny Longo, who was not seen good enough to ride the senior women's race for France as a national selection. They felt she didn't have the experience. She'd only ridden about a couple of mountain bike races, one of which she won, by the way, so she wasn't part of the national team, and she rode in her own colours, and we're going to show you that later on as well in the programme, so I won't let the cat out out the bag and tell you what happened then. And talking to cats, by the way, Metabief here is known as the people of the grey cat. So I don't know why the people are called grey cats in Metabief. I didn't find that out, but that's what they seem to be known as. And I wanted the cat out of the bag as to what happened to Jenny Longo either. We're showing you what that one later on in the programme. Well, they are top of your screens. The easiest way of going to and from the top of the mountain. That's the lift that takes the spectators and the riders up. And all day for the last few days have been queues of riders on one side, pushing their bikes onto the front of the lifts and then sitting in behind the bikes. And very often the ordinary spectators find themselves accompanying bikes as well, because the riders, you get 3 riders on, you can't put all 3 bikes on the same time on the chairlift. So 2544, or 2504, we'll have to wait. These numbers are a bit indistinct at times for BDL eyes like mine. So 2731 just finished, 2737, so that's Joe Lowell of the United States. You can see that white thing sticking out the back of his jersey, by the way. That's some special back padding which some of these riders use to make sure that if they fall, they don't hurt the back. And we went at the top then to one of the New Zealand riders. That was Darren Henderson at the top of the start house, waiting for his drop off. By the way, up at the top of that hill, you can actually, or mountain it is, you can turn behind where he is now, and this is the New Zealand rider then, Darren Henderson on his way down. You can look back and you can actually see on a fine day Mont Blanc. Well, I can tell you, Mont Blanc was not in sight the last few days, and I didn't have a chance to look at it in this glorious sunshine that we're getting now. The conditions then a bit murky. 2039 just finishing, and that was Patrick Mays. Back up at the start, the top. This is Jake Watson of the American team, but we're going back down again. Further down the slope. This is the bit, the quarry is on the right-hand side here, and a massive sheer face it was. It makes a nice vantage point for the spectators. So that's Paolo Alvera from Italy just finishing. And that was Darren Henderson from New Zealand, still in full tilt. We saw him at the top of the drop. In fact, spoke to one of the New Zealand riders yesterday in the cross-country thing, and he'd blown his tyre out, and it was terrible conditions, and he said to me, thank goodness, he said, I've got a good excuse to go back with. I think he found it so tough. In fact, it did turn into being a cyclo-cross type course yesterday and the day before, and obviously it favoured the cyclo-cross riders. And New Zealand is still on his way down. Riding for Diamondback, who are one of the official sponsors of the race. Fabrice Taillefer, the Taillefer brothers, by the way, have been sharing the top honours in France downhill for many, many years now, and national champions. So the two brothers, and a little bit of battle here between these two to see what sort of time they can do on this course. Always an element of competition between both of them. Well, our Swedish rider here getting his breath back. That's going to be Jussi Hentonen. It is Jussi Hentonen. And back up to the top again. Well, we're switching backwards and forwards this great rate of knots. Now then, let's hope we go back there, because it looked to me like Jürgen Benneker at the top to start. He has been the winner of the Grundig Downhill Series this year. He ran out winner, finishing in Capron in fine style, and it looks like he was he's the next to go on our list here. And then he's followed by Filip Parakis, another of the European downhill champions. So we've got some very good close men locked in together here, and back with Fabrice Telefer, I suspect that our cameraman will and producer will follow the French fairly well down, but I hope we go back up and pick some of Jürgen Benneker, because for my money he'd like to be one of the chaps challenging for top honours today. He's certainly been in fine form. He's only been in downhill racing for a couple of years, Benneker. He took it on last year, 1992, and in 93 has really come out tops. Well, that in fact is Parakis at the top, Philip Parakis from Switzerland, looking like a man from Mars or somebody that you see on your well, we've now got the confirmation here of the position so far. Miglioroni, Giulio, Tomac in third spot then. You can see it on your screen, I hope, just about there. So that was a quick spot. So Miglioroni, I said I thought he was going rather quickly indeed, and has always been in the top half dozen places in the Grundig Series. So this man on his way down then, one-time European champion Parakis, a very, very seasoned, a very, very strong performer indeed. Well, these riders grabbing air as they do, showing off. You've got to be a bit of a nutcase to ride downhill like that. I tell you, you can't hardly walk down this hill, let alone fly down the way these chaps are flying down the hill. But they're doing it and chucking the bikes about all over the place. And when you look at them, by the way, they're so different, these riders, from the cross-country men. They really are a lot of odd people, but I can tell you they're characters, and you've got to have it. They were falling off left, right and centre in practising, so to actually come here now and contest this course, having known the danger, the problem, and still do it flat out and give it all you've got. As a New Zealand rider coming in then at the moment, don't think he will, as I say, trouble the judges too much. I don't want to be disrespectful, but there's one or two very, very fast men indeed yet to come. Parakis is on his way down, Benneker's on his way down. And this is Parakis with plenty of armour on. I said to you earlier on that some of these riders prefer to have a bit of packaging round about them, some specially designed trousers that have got these inserts in them, but of course they have to do it so you can still pedal, and you'll find the strips of foam are machined into the clothing so they can still pedal the bicycle. And also you can see these elbow pads as well, and shin pads, because honestly, if you slip your feet and if you bang your shins on the pedals, you can cause yourself a nasty bump indeed. Some of the riders in fact prefer not to put much padding on the basis that if they go too mad and fall off, then they should be just within that. They should be at sort of 10 tenths all the way down, not 11 tenths, which is when you fall off, and that I suppose is a reasonable sense of argument, but not everybody wishes to take that on board. We're not getting many close-ups of the bikes, by the way, on this particular thing, but I tell you, I've never seen 2240 on his way down here at the moment. I've never seen so many different looking suspension systems. In fact, that must have been Chris O'Driscoll to 2740. I didn't quite read the number properly. As the German rider, Jürgen Benneker it is. That's the first sight we've had of him. Then it's a great shame. I hope we go back to him, because he's certainly got to be a man to watch out for. This is Jeremy Brown of Canada next to drop down. I hope we go back to Jürgen Benneker. There's got to be, that's not him. Back down with the French rider. Fabrice Telefer. Well, hang on, the crowd's getting rather excited about that one, so wait for confirmation of that time. It looks pretty quick then. Well, it's a very nice day. A lot of riders have been training on this course earlier on in the year. I was talking to Dave Cullingham, the previous world champion, and he said that when he came in the summer, there were ideal conditions, and they're a bit worried when the weather went bad, but it's gone very nice indeed. Now, that was Samuel Parelli of France up the top there. Back then with Benneker for Germany. This is the man to watch out for. Makes it look so effortlessly, doesn't it? I mean, admittedly, Tomac was pumping hard on the pedals and throwing all over the place, but certainly some of these riders make it look very, very simple indeed as Jürgen Benneker finishes. The Grundig World Champion, finishing in more ways than one. He's absolutely exhausted by that one. Back up then, Parakis is still on his way down, started 1 minute after him, but that's another rider further up the top, Jürgen Benneker. That was Jeremy Brown of Canada, 2:05.9. On the start line now, another French riders. This is Ludwig Dubois. And next to go after Ludwig Dubois will be Brian Lopez from the United States. Jason McCroy, the British rider, we might just about catch hold of him. Will Longland's just in front of him, and the time we've got here to pick these riders up may give us a chance to see what Jason McCroy does on this course. And certainly, when I spoke to him yesterday, he seemed to be in fine form and full of hopes for today. The rider, sponsored by Hardesty Cycles, up into the northeast of England. So that's Brian Lopez from the United States. There he goes, and after Lopez, the next one will be Italian rider up there, Paolo Caramelino. Is it a berms? He swung his bike on that little thing. That's a man-made device, very much known in BMX racing, by the way, and not something that one often sees in mountain biking. But it has undoubtedly found its supporters and also its critics as well, because on this course there's been one or two man-made things like the berms, which we're seeing, and the whoopty jumps, which is probably the one things that the cameras can pick up. Whereas in the muddy parts, which we're not picking up because the cameras can't really get in there with the pictures because it's so dark, that's where the technical part is. That's where the rocks are, and that's where the punctures happen, and that's where the riders really have to work hard to A, to stay upright, and B, to make sure they don't lose too much time. So, French rider on his way. Sorry, it's the Italian rider now. Caramelino. There are 150 of the senior men, by the way, in this competition, and they're starting out with a fast minute, 1 minute intervals, and this massive crowd here. The roads to leave this place at night, I can tell you, it's a nightmare. It's a little tiny narrow roads to get out. I suppose skiers that know this part of the world will be familiar with the problems of the narrow roads around this neck of the woods. The next rider going down there from Italy was Corrado Harin.
Oh! Non mais l'autre il descend. Toi tu viens là. Ouais, je vais faire toi.
Well, the riders here working their way through the woods. I'm just picking up some more time so I get them as soon as I can. We're going to take a short commercial break in a moment, so let's hope we can get some of these individual times for you. As back up on the top of the climb, those riders happily then, with the sunshine beating down, they all go up on that ski lift with their bikes and wait there, and you can look right over the top down. The Metabief looks like a little matchbox town right down below you, and that is Ludwig Debeau of France, bouncing on the pedals on his way down. Beautiful condition, absolutely superb. I'm so pleased to see it like this today. I've had what I call a really cracking. This is the bit where he has to now start and go up the slope. And here, one of these alloy bikes with the front and rear suspensions. You've never seen so many different varieties of suspension systems. And the position at the moment then, Calamarino up there ahead of Miles Rockwell. That's interesting. A lot of the others have been pushed down further. Jürgen Benneker, no better than fourth. That's a turn up for the books then. Migliorani, the previous leader, now back into 7th place, and Tomac then pushed down into 14th spot. Well, that gives you a running route of the list so far. We're going to take a short break, come back later.
They say opposites always attract. You can see that it must be a fact. Look at you, look at me, and that's what you see. It's not what I do, it's more what I don't. It's the things that you will and the things that I won't. Where's the attraction, the bittersweet satisfaction? Is it that both of us know our martini is Rosso?
To copy the big one, we've created the small one that looks like the big one. TDK recordable mini disc, the small one that copies the big ones.
Wherever you are. Eurosport Live.
I guess that was a good time and a good pedaling stroke as he comes through. That is the great German rider Jürgen.
Well, let's give you some idea of the conditions I was talking about from Metabief. Look at that. Absolutely amazing, these riders. And yes, this is looking at some of the earlier parts of the proceedings. This was the tandems, by the way. We had some tandem racing. And this is, I'll give you some idea what it's like going through the woods. Well, the support's been out in fine number. The Swiss with their faces painted red with a white cross on, they're probably the most notable. And here to give you some idea of the conditions there, the tandem people having to come down, carrying and pushing and shoving. And yeah, the big thing was spot the champions, and there's a nice little village showing all the latest goodies in mountain biking. There's so much new kit come on the scene, it's just absolutely amazing. Look at this new Peugeot. I was talking about its rear suspension there, one with a single arm. Here, demonstration of those quick release pedals. Well, going on then to looking at some of the racing. And that was the start of the ladies' race. Absolutely tremendous, terrible conditions as far as they were concerned here on this course. And they were actually riding with when the conditions were probably worse than many other of the competitors. So it's not particularly good as far as they were concerned. Horrible conditions for the ladies' race. With mountain biking, by the way, that if you have a mechanical problem, you have in fact to look after the bike yourself. You can't in any way go to pitch like you can in cyclocross and change your bike. You have in fact to rely entirely upon yourself to sort your bike out. And these are the conditions, I tell you, absolutely diabolical. Well, you need a sense of humour in this game, I can tell you. Well, there's a complete contrast to today when the sun is shining. This gooey stuff here is so thick and so difficult for the riders to go through. I tell you, it really was awful tough stuff indeed as far as the girls were concerned. Just not ideal conditions at all. The reason why they're carrying their bikes is a particular part of the course, by the way. I can tell you that in fact the course itself goes up very nearly to the top where the downhill riders are starting from. That's some 1,420 metres above sea level. Down at the bottom it's only somewhat 1,000 metres, so they've got somewhere around about 500 metres of climbing, and it's firstly all at one side. And this is why many of the competitors, in fact I was talking to the Mexican competitors, they came all the way from Mexico, and the Argentinians were talking to those from that part of the world, who said they never expected to see conditions like this in a world mountain bike championship, and it just became a survival of the fittest in any of these particular races, I can tell you. Great disappointment then for the competitors to have this conditions, although of course it did, as I say, get a lot better, and it has got a lot better today as far as the mountain bike section is concerned. They're doing two great big loops of the circuit for the juniors. The senior women doing 3 laps of the circuit, veteran men 3 laps of the circuit, and so these junior men are also going to do 2 laps of the circuit, and the senior men who were originally going to do 5 are cut back in fact to 4 laps of the circuit. So the very, very difficult conditions indeed as far as these riders are concerned on this, what is a very complex course, up one side virtually and back down the other one. Yep, not nice at all. Well, at least somebody's finished, and they're happy about that particular one, to cross across the line. It seems to be something of an achievement anyway to finish in this particular race. Well, I'll give you some idea. These junior girls having, they're even lesser than junior girls. I forget what the actual age group is here, but they really are down at the bottom of the age group, and now looking at the veteran men as such. So the young ladies having started out on the Friday morning, setting the pace, the veteran men next to go. In fact, on the junior women's then, the winner was Karin Roma of the Scott team, 129 we saw across the line. The French girl Mona Fee was second, and later Holbeck of France was third. So France getting 3 medals in the junior ladies, and the result again then of the race took the winner 57 minutes to cover the course. Karin Roma ahead of Mona Fee and later Holbeck. First, second and third taking the medals in the junior event. On then with the veterans men and the defending champion in this particular instance, Zbigniew Krasniak, covering 3 laps of this course. And this is Ricardo de Bertolis, being hotly pursued down here by Zbigniew Krasniak. Krasniak's got a tremendous reputation, not only last year as the veteran world champion, but also he's been a very good cyclocross and road rider as well. In fact, a very tough and gutsy man, and I think many of these veterans here coming into the sport with road background as well as cyclocross, they need the tenacity, they needed the strength, and imagine how the girls felt when they were out on the course before these particular riders here. So this is Yves Belliot of France, lying in 3rd spot at the moment. And Shanks's pony downhill, you see, not only uphill but downhill. These were the problems confronting the riders, that there were so many parts of the course that were unrideable. And this at the moment is Michel Pepino of Italy, running around about 12th spot. And still then the leader pressing on, Ricardo Bertolis. But getting to amongst the lapping of the riders that are starting from the 1 or 2 of the riders were really coming to this race, I think, on a wing and a prayer, and it really started to sort them out. Well, Ricardo de Bertolis right down on the granny ring. Three laps this course to be covered, and it's going to take the winner something near to 2.5 hours in the saddle. And here the crowd appreciative of the effort that's being put in. You see the motorcycle just up in front, taking around to make sure the course is clear. And then behind, Krasniak battling out here. Number 41 on the left-hand side is Krasniak. 297 is Walter Brandl. Brandl, in fact, at the moment, lying in 3rd place going into this lap here. He's going to really struggle. He's already going off the pace. The Swiss rider, you see a big man on these climbs here, finding it somewhat difficult to hold the smooth pedaling Zbigniew Krasniak. Krasniak sponsored by Chilo, the Swiss mountain bike company. And in 3rd place at the moment, Yves Belliot of France. Again, look, using some very, very low gears indeed. And look at those ruts. No wonder they said it more like a cyclocross course in these difficult muddy conditions. This is Eric Ubelhardt, European champion for veterans as well. But he's a bit off the pace and he's struggling to get into a medal position, lying in 4th spot. And let's get some more action for you out in the woods. Well, nice day out for some, but I tell you, it's not so good for some of these riders. I suppose you can say, hello, here hello, Mum, I'm on television, but not putting the effort in that some of the other riders are putting in on this very, very tough course indeed. Steve Bennett and Mick Daly riding for Great Britain in this race. Tim Stowe, the other one out there. Look at this lot here. They come from far and wide. Told the Argentinians were not happy at all. Nor would you be if you came that distance. Just a quick look then at Carlos Hernandez of Spain, 1086. Here pushing and shoving. And no, the Americans didn't like it either. One thing about our handheld cameras getting amongst the action, you can see the tree roots and so on. We've been talking about the downhill section of this race. Well, they come through a very similar part to that, and this is what we're not getting with our camera work on the downhill section. But now it's dried out a little bit. They're coming through a bit quicker on the downhill, as you might imagine. But look at this. As far as these veteran men are concerned, they really are stirring it up a bit like a nice consistency of brown porridge. And of course, the worst part too with about mountain bikes is these great big fat tyres. We're picking up the gunge and sticking it up underneath the brake arches. Well, of course, with the cantilever brakes with the thin wires, then that's one way to make sure that the clogging is kept to minimum. And riding in then to first place, Riccardo Di Bazzolis from the Karate team of Italy. And into second place, Zbigniew Krasniak, who've been trying so hard to catch the man up in front, so he had to be content with a second place silver medal this year to go with the goal that he had last year. And in third place then, E. Berlioz in the men's race. Eric Uberhardt took fourth. Mario Norris was in fifth. Siegfried Hogemata in seventh. Alain Daniel from France, the other cyclocross rider, was in seventh place. And way back in ninth, Erlich Rottler. In 10th place, Jacques Deport. We just had a very quick look there at the junior riders starting, the men's juniors, and we just seen the finish as well. Dario Acquariolo of Italy goes across the line in first place. The rider we saw come in second place, Gerben de Gerecht, was, let's see, 1 hour 37.18. He was, some 1 minute 52 seconds back as far as they were concerned. On then to the senior ladies race. Just let's remind you then of that result of the junior race. Dario Acquariolo of Italy in first spot. 1 hour 35 minutes 26 seconds. This is the ladies race. We'll come back to that in a moment. Gerben de Gerecht of Holland was in second place, and in third place Klaus Jacob Meyer taking the silver medal. So this is the battle then for the girls. And a very, very big field indeed, starting out on this race. And all eyes were going to be on Jenny Longo. Jenny Longo, almost a perpetual second, I suppose, when it comes to road racing, taking part in the cyclocross. And here she is, as we speak. Jenny Longo, smooth pedalling up here, just showing superb form. And that ability to sit there and twiddle the pedals round. Jenny Longo, 6:05, and what a battle in the women's race. The Italian girl in the blue, Paolo Pezzo, was always in contention, and in there too, an amazing ride by Chantal Dacour, who actually was going to ride on, and I'll tell you a little bit later on what happens to that girl, but watch her here behind Pezzo. Well, a lot of the Americans finding this course not really to their liking at all. So Susan Amati, number 349, the Americans here in strength. 351, Liza Mulick. Liza, in fact, is the cross-country champion of America. One would have thought that she was going to be better off, but she was struggling to stay in the top 10 places. Unfortunately for Caroline Alexander, the British girl, she started very fast indeed and then faded from the scene, unfortunately, so she was out of the reckoning. They were looking at Natalie Fiat of France, number 418. Natalie up in the top 10, lying 6th at the moment, at this particular moment in time. But Jenny Longo at the front having this tremendous battle with the Italian girl. And it really was an effort between both of them, swinging backwards and forwards. Longo running remarkably quickly through here. That's a girl who's been a tremendous road rider, world champion. And here Chantal Dacour and Paolo Pezzo, these two girls very close indeed. The American girl behind Ruti Mattis trying to come up to them as well. But Longo had set a fast pace and got onto the front. Susan Amati just staying in the top 10 as well. On the first lap, it had been Pezzo, Dacour, D'Amati, Sidor, Longo and Furtado. Bad luck though for Furtado. The American girl was having some stomach trouble, and in fact she punked that mistake. She dropped out of it actually with mechanical problems, Furtado. So that put her out of the running. Furtado, who won the Grundig Series this year convincingly by winning all the events she rode in, including the final. Furtado having mechanical trouble, and that put her out of the action. Well, I'll tell you, they had to do all their own spanner work themselves. Here, a broken chain. And you see, look, leaving the other side. Nobody can actually get over and help with a mechanical problem at all. As Longo then going through to the front. Paolo Pezzo had been leading after some 40 minutes. Dacour, Longo and Furtado was the order after 40 minutes of racing. Then after 45 minutes, Dacour, Pezzo, Furtado was the order before Furtado had a mechanical problem. Then Longo began to come through. After an hour and a quarter of racing, Jenny Longo took the lead. That was on the second lap. The Italian girl, Paolo Pezzo, into second place, battling that with Chantal Dacour, as we've seen. Here she is then. Sophie Eglin from the States was back in fourth spot, but Pezzo began to recover and started to come back at Longo. This is Paolo Pezzo, number 228. She got Longo in her sights. Chantal Dacour with massive Swiss support around the course. I could tell they were selling T-shirts with her name on them, that not many people want to wear them because they're a bit on the damp and cold side as far as she was concerned. Nice and warm running away here, but the GT girl for Switzerland battling for a bronze medal. Now running down some 1 minute 28 seconds back to Dacour, with Longo and Pezzo together up in front. Natalie Fiat into sixth place for France. Well off the pace now, the gaps are opening up further back, but look, Pezzo has now got up to Longo. Amazing recovery by the Italian girl. Longo and Pezzo battling for the lead. Racing now for about an hour and 45 minutes, and on to the last lap. These two are together. It's 2 minutes 30 seconds back to Chantal Dacour. And Paolo Pezzo beginning to put the pressure down. The question was, could Longo hang on in there? Jenny Longo, so long a contender for the crown, second in the World Road Race Championship, but also this year with the Italian girl Paolo Pezzo, also useful on the road as well as on the mountain bike circuit. And the crowd were being treated to an absolute out-and-out race. In the earlier races, there have been so many problems, so much mud, so much difficulty. We'd never seen a head-to-head like this one, but here it was, right in front of the French eyes, massive crowd cheering all the way around. You could hear where Longo had got to, and here the Swiss were also out in force for Dacour with their bells going, clank, 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 their flags waving. Wonderful occasion for the nations. And unfortunately not nice conditions as far as the ride is concerned, with these very, very muddy conditions. Awful. Imagine though with that girl up in front, Jenny Longo, turning to mountain biking now. 3 times she's won the Ladies Tour de France. This girl, Chantal Dacour here. Looking back then, Sophie Eglin for France. Natalie Fiat for France, the girls from France. Desperately trying to do well. They've got Longo up there battling for first place as well. Nadia Segura just in the top 20 as well. Slow motion picture here. Chantal Dacour. Just look at that gunge. Well, South Africa girl coming across here. I was talking to South Africans and they said they never expected to see conditions like this. Of course, they're used down there to, even though they have reasonable summers, they have even less, they have lovely summers and lovely winters as far as we're concerned, and less of the rain. So they said if it rains in South Africa 1.5 hours, that's about all they seem to get. But here, I say 20 hours of rain on the first day made life very difficult indeed, and the mud really clogging up the wheels. So for the Canadians, well, they had Alison Saido in 4th spot early on in the race, and then this girl here, Longo, launched her attack and got up there with Petso. Paola Petso, the Italian girl, forging a lead with Jenny Longo. Champion of the road, 4 times she's been world road champion, Jenny Longo, now taken to this sport, and the French would not select her for the national team, by the way. They said that she hadn't got the experience, although she'd won one of the races. They wanted somebody with more experience, and here she's going away then on this little long climb up through the feeding station, the top part of the course before they swing back down, and the gap then something like 17 seconds.
The British Mountain Bike Championship. The world's #1.
Welcome to the 1991 Outback My Cycles Malvern Hills Classic, held once again in the picturesque surroundings of East Nordeer Park, right in the heart of England. Of course, the park is privately owned and mountain biking is not normally allowed here, so it makes the perfect location to prepare a course away from the public eye, which will surprise the riders and entertain spectators. Once again, the course designer is Kevin Earp.
This year the course is loosely based on last year's with some alterations. It still has its technical descents and its gut-busting climbs, where riders out of every class can push themselves to the limit, where spectators can see more than just a start-finish and so shout encouragement to friends and family members. The furthest part on the course is approximately a mile, so you could walk to any good vantage point during the same race, where novice riders can compare their performance on the same stretch of course as a professional.
This video will show you the highlights of this 3-day festival, and your commentators are Greg Oxenham and myself, Bob Cartwright. Right, let's have a look at the course layout. The start-finish area is very similar to the 1990 course. It allows a rapid start into the sharp right-hand bend. Then the riders go across the other side of the lake to the Giro drop, which drops down into the water there, as you see. Then there's the first climb of the race, the My Cycles climb, which is a 200-metre steep climb, which will get people down into the middle ring as they jockey for position before going on to the Cannondale Ridge. Now, the Cannondale Ridge goes past the first water station, and it's about 250 metres long, flat run as you try and establish your positions on the first and possibly the second lap. Then you drop down to Osabisa Bridge before beginning the first of the 3 sections climbing on Commodore Climb. Well, people will remember this one because it is a long one. 150 metres of loose shale road and track before it starts the steep attacking climb on grass up 200 metres. And that'll get people down into the lower rings as they pull over the edge. And then it's another 200 metres, I'm sorry, it's got to keep going, before you get to the end of this gruelling climb, the longest climb on the race and the one that people will remember very well. Then there's a brief rest before a hairpin onto the tabletop. Now, this is a 1-in-1 4-metre climb. You've got to remember that the traction on this slope is very, very bad indeed. You've got to keep your weight forward down into the lower gears, but somehow pull the bike over the top. Then it's along and into the sheep pit, which is a very dry and awkward 30-metre gully. When you exit the pit, you have another 75-metre climb with no shade, which takes you up to the beginning of the roller coaster, which in turn leads down to Birchen Wood and Peacock Villa, the furthest part of the course. From there it's just a short journey, and there's usually a cool breeze which takes you along the Malvern Road up to the obelisk, the highest point on the course, and the second very, very welcome drink station. From here it's all downhill, and it starts to get very fast as the riders let go of the brakes, put themselves into the top cog and power down at speeds which exceed 40 miles an hour. They flash through the 200-metre tree-lined tunnelled Oaken Grove, and they're still applying power all the way. Everyone has their own technique for this. Most riders put their weight over the back wheel, flex their legs and bend their arms to take the punishment that comes off the front wheel. Now this takes them down to the staircase, which has 3 adverse cambers on some very, very tight twists. There's a left, right, left, and the cambers go away from you. Got to be very careful not to lose your front wheel on this one, and a lot of people find they're in the wrong gear to come out of that hairpin. The ever popular bomb hole is back by popular request, and the route to it is being kept very simple, straight down and very quick. It looks deceptively easy on video, however I can assure you each rider is trying his or her best to keep both wheels pointing in the same direction as they leave towards the outback catch-out. Now this is a 50-metre gully with a very steep entry and exit. It follows a natural stream bed which is dry, well, almost dry. At the soggy end there's an awkward left bank which gets wet as each race progresses, and there's all sorts of techniques used to get out of that. Now it's down the juggler's drop, around the nasty left-hander to the start-finish area, where you can wave to all your friends, do some serious posing before starting another 4-mile lap.
But first, let's get you on the end of your seats and watch the dual slalom.
Thanks, Kevin. Right, just a few words about the Eto Toulé Slalom. The course designer, Richard Dale, spent 2 days laying out this course, which appears similar to those used in European skiing events. It was complete with flexi gates and a sophisticated electronic timing system used in the UK for the very first time. From the race starting ramp, riders powered off the grid in top gear to negotiate the 30 gates in each of their 2 500-metre preliminary runs. As the competition wore on and the speeds increased, things really began to hot up. The eventual winner, James Hardy, averaged 25 miles per hour as he dropped nearly 100 metres from start to finish, right down to the final straight, where, as you'll see, some of the most spectacular action took place. This was a real family occasion and the spectators were revelling in the intense competition. Riders competed in pairs against the clock, the aggregate of their 2 runs deciding who moved forward to the quarter-finals. On the grid now, Tony Ferrari and Paul Fawkes, followed right behind by Mark Gorman and Bruce Gregory. As you can see, riders leave the start ramp, negotiate 3 gates in quick succession before taking the first of the 4 man-made jumps. It became obvious early on that the red course appeared quicker and good times were being recorded on that track. Initial riders were posting times around about 1 minute in their heats. Even the women soon began to reduce this as their confidence grew on their second runs. Sophie Brooks, Jackie Fletcher and Penny Townsend put in times which left many of their male counterparts absolutely amazed. It's good to see more women competing in this type of event. You're about to see Clive Forth win his second heat and showing the technique which guaranteed him a place in the quarterfinals. Take note of how he's pushing on those pedals and the look of determination on his face. So now let's just sit back and savour some of the tremendous highlights of the day's racing.
whole atmosphere at the Outback MyCycles Malvern Hills Classic was based around good old-fashioned fun. There seemed to be jugglers around every corner and bunny hoppers galore. Jez Avery and his mates always pull a good crowd whenever they start a freestyle showcase, which is guaranteed to break up pre-race tension. It's been said that Jez can do more things with a mountain bike than the average person can do with a Swiss Army knife. And these stunts just go to prove it. Although we do recommend that you don't try this at home without good all-round body armour. If your CV reads acrobatic, well-balanced, exhibitionist with a hands-on approach, then you too can join these guys anytime, any place and anywhere.
Guess what? We're just about to give these prizes away over here. We'd like to...
That's right. And here we go. Here's
The Friday evening's entertainment included the Eto Bike Limbo. Contestants ranged from 12 years of age upwards, and they battled it out for a grand prize of a bottle of champagne, courtesy of Eto. As the evening draws in, the riders demonstrate their versatility, techniques and desperation to win this free drink by lowering the bar to an amazing 31 inches. The spectators, however, had to settle with buying their drinks from the other bar next door.
What would you say, ladies and gentlemen?
Ready, ladies, the competition? Oh! Did you see that, folks? Did you see that? I didn't see it. Did anybody see that? I think she has to have another run, basically. Yeah, we all put her off. The television camera light was really on now. The camera is actually shining on the back of the head now. Going for it. See the one down?
And so now the winner clears the amazing 31 inches to win his bottle of champagne, much to the disappointment of the commentator, who would have quite happily taken it home with him if an underage person had been the victor.
We're not going to see a Nigel Mansell finish here, okay?
Next man.
And he can keep it. And there you go, right. So thank you very much. That's a new British record, I understand, 31 inches. Saturday morning and the competition proper was about to begin. The massive concourse area had been alive from 6 a.m. with riders preparing themselves for the start of the fun class. There was to be a record entry of just over 300 competitors. Anxious smiles were exchanged by riders who were soon to be straining on the pedals to complete their 2 4-mile laps of the east-north site. David Newman, race director and owner of Outback, one of the major sponsors of the event, briefed the riders in the holding area before they moved forward to the start line. We were extremely honoured to have His Grace, the Duke of Somerset, available to give the opening address to the event and set the riders on their way.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure on this nice sunny morning so far to officially start this, the first race with our Union Jack. May you all try hard to achieve your goals, but most of all, remember to have fun. And they're off and running right down, already up front, 1
6,272. Mark Muddle making a clean pair of heels there to the rest of the riders. Neil McCartney right behind him. Mark Graham and Andrew Hunter right up there at the start. And all these guys streaming out as they head up from the start position, up around the big oak tree and heading down towards the zero drop and the subsequent Cannondale climb behind it. It's a fantastic field of riders right now as they stream.
And their adrenaline's really pumping now. They've got their legs going. You hear the SPDs clipping away and they rise up the MyCycles climb there onto the Cannondale Ridge. Now this is where the riders have been jockeying for position and stretching themselves out. And now we're going to have Greg pick the race up from the tabletop.
Right here at the tabletop we see the first of the riders coming into view from out of the trees. It's Richard Smith, 1134. He drops it down a cog and just heads straight up over the top. Seems almost effortless, of course, but of course this is the first lap of this event. Meanwhile, a little bit behind him, you can see the contestants coming into view. And right here, Frank King, 1124. He too seems to have no troubles at that spot as more of the riders come into view. Now, of course, this is a fun class event, and these riders are out for pure enjoyment, but I'm sure that they'll be showing some of the experts who'll compete tomorrow exactly how gruelling it can be. Some of the riders already, this being the first lap, are off the bikes, pushing their bikes over this tricky little bit at the top of the tabletop. This young guy looks like he's really having a tough time of it. Meanwhile, more riders coming towards us, some of them on their bikes, some of them off their bikes, some barely on their bikes. Have a look at this. Whoops, foot's caught in the pedal and over he goes. That's David Rose. He's back on his bike again and pushes it back over the top off the tabletop area. Coming towards us now, there's a Free Counties Radio rider. Free Counties Radio are broadcasting this event to the entire Free Counties area surrounding the ground.
Over at the bomb hole, there's a small group of riders coming down from the obelisk, the leader of which is Graham Alder, who comes through showing a very serious face, but of course he's got another lap to go. And there we see orange rider Andrew Pettifer coming through, again keeping himself very serious and self-contained. Now you can see one or two riders are having a bit of a slip here, and young Matthew Churchill is cleaning his rear tyre in a very novel way. Thomas Pritchard's coming through very cautiously, but there again he is 28 years of age, so I suppose he's getting a bit old for this sort of thing now. And there's Adam Lewis and Ian Miley coming through, showing a very controlled style. Now you've got Tom Kenderdine coming through on the stars there. He's the bike behind, that's him. Yes, a lot of control as he pedals through. And then we've got Tim Riley. Now Tim Riley's going to show a little stunt for us, but don't keep your eyes on him, keep your eyes on the guy behind, who actually introduces himself to the crowd, has a brief chat, picks up a water bottle, thanks them for their help, and he's on his way. So that's how to get through the bomb hole. So we're going to look down at the start-finish area and see what's going on down there.
At the end of the first lap now, we've got the first two riders coming through. Up front, number 1152, Ian Johnson. He clears through quite neatly and still pedalling very hard as he heads on now up towards the big oak tree.
Well, into the second lap now, we're over at the tabletop, and there's Martin Althorpe going over the top there, and he's closely followed by the youngest rider in the race, Samuel Bennett, 8 years of age, and it's the third year he's been riding at the Malvern Hills Classic. He's on his micro alpine stars there, getting a lot of enthusiasm from the crowd, and off he goes into the stylised shade. Now this is Chris Parker, who's going to show us that speed, momentum and muscle don't necessarily all meet in the same place, and he's decided to use the one-legged method. It's just as effective, even if it is a bit slow.
We pick up the riders now over by the bomb hole. The third rider through there, that's Stephen Alton, 1186. He goes through, and right behind him I can see coming into view in the vivid pink top, we've got Michael Rogan, that's 1082. Around he goes. Now right behind him in the red, check out that man, that's my fellow commentator Bob Cartwright. Now he's commentating and broadcasting live to all the spectators at the event. It was a first on the day and never before done in any UK event. Following Mark Gregg into the dam is Stephen Woodford. Stephen goes over the handlebars very neatly indeed and stoops to recover his bike. Unfortunately, it doesn't want to come. But nonetheless, he gets it up the hill and heads out of this rather tricky area. And right behind him, we've got Peter Maguire, who bunny hops across it and tries to get up there in one step. Good bit of work there from Peter Maguire. Tim Lane right behind him, face first, skin off his knees, but pride undamaged, he heads up the top of the hill. And another rider, a faceless rider in fact, don't know who he is, but I'm sure he is watching this right now and probably recognises himself stuck there in that bog in the catch-up. Meanwhile, Jonathan Everett's got a bit of a problem. He's lost his shoe in the mud. Anyway, he's back on the go again, and whoops, straight over he goes. The crowd is really going wild. I can hear that right now. It was a big crowd at this area, I can tell you. Many thousands over the course of the weekend.
Down at the start-finish area, we have the first few riders who will be qualifying for the Sunday's finals, and that's 150 riders who will be qualifying out of the 300-odd riders riding on the Saturday morning there. They've all thoroughly earned it, thoroughly enjoyed themselves. Majority of riders have been riding for the first time, and it's been a great challenge for all. They're probably just going to refresh themselves now with a bit of that beautiful Malvern water.
Next up on the start line, the junior category. 175 riders there today. 75 are going to qualify on this free lap event. They leave the starting grid and they head off up towards the big oak tree, and a tremendous field it is indeed. Some very young and very, very agile young riders amongst those guys. Of course, this is the field which will eventually become the experts of tomorrow. And here coming towards us, Richard Thackeray, the man in yellow, who will eventually win this race tomorrow. A tremendous rider, very, very strong. He's surrounded by Bike UK, a Cadra racing team, and there's another one in Xavier Archibald.
Hold bike down.
My goodness, there's another man going through. You might have just heard that little comment. That was Justin Cornelius, and he's out of sight.
Right, 5 minutes later we've got the start of the youth category, 175 riders, 2 laps, 75 to qualify. As you see, a bit of bunching there, a few tyres clipping places at the start area. They renegotiate their riding positions, they're back on and they're powering away out to prove themselves today. Now that's 8 miles they've got to do in this gruelling heat, and it's certainly getting very hot. And that's Daniel Sweet powering up to the top there, and he's pulling round. And in the pack behind him there's Jim Perkins, who's also out to keep in the front pack. Of course, it's very important to establish an early lead in a race like this. Due to the nature of the track and the style of cycling, it's very awkward to try and overtake, particularly on the climbs. Now, this young man's Adam Moody, 13 years of age, looks a bit tired perhaps on this first lap. Come on, Adam, show us what you can do. And he's away. This just gives you an indication of what it's like down by the duck ponds before the riders start the Commodore climb.
Back to you, Greg.
The speeds these young youth riders are hitting right now is really fearless. They're only 12 to 15-year-olds, remember, and they're going at it hell for leather. That young guy going through there, Carl Farrell, just about makes a face plant, but the man behind him doesn't quite survive it. He goes flat over on his face, his bike up in the air, and he's really lost the air out of his lungs. He's taken some big gulps there, and some of the bystanders are giving him a little bit of a hand. Another rider nearly bites the dust just there, and coming through, Richard Tucker, 3-1-3-4, a much safer pass through the bomb hole, wearing his Kona colours. He heads on down towards the catch-out. More riders coming through, showing a little bit more of the air and a little bit more of the technique that they've developed. Meanwhile, over by the catch-out, we've got some very interesting action taking place, as some of the riders are developing new techniques to get through that rather muddy section of the course. Approaching us now, we've got young Simon Waters. I can see him now as approaching to my left, and here he is now trying to make it up the side of this little bank. Now that's got very muddy over the course of the last couple of hours. A lot of riders have been through there, and he's lost a bit of traction. He's 1 foot in the mud. He's just about got up. Meanwhile, other riders certainly not giving him the time of day as they pass him by and head off around the course again. But anyway, Simon Waters is out of the mire now, and he too mounts his bike and disappears out of view. More riders approaching. This one's young Justin Cornelius, 18 years of age. He pulls his bike through the mud, and his feet now are extraordinarily muddy. Let's see how he goes trying to get up this bit of a bank. And he's taking it quite cautiously. The other riders going past him are no doubt whispering a few words of encouragement. And here's a yellow rider going towards the hill. Great approach technique. Unfortunately, not too good on the finishing. Young rider Mike Harper is going to attempt to ride it. The crowd's behind him. Oops, he nearly makes it, but he legs his way up to the top. Now I've got to show you, ladies and gentlemen, the next man coming towards this hill, or should I say young Mike Fletcher. Not a very old fellow. This is an absolute study in pathos. This young boy, total grit, total determination. I give you a man who's likely to be the next Prime Minister of this country. Mike Fletcher never gives up, never says die, and he struggles manfully, or should I say boyfully, to the top of this hill. Now the crowd were right behind him at this stage. They were yelling and they were screaming. They were all waiting in wistful anticipation. Even the photographer couldn't even hold the camera steady. He was laughing so loudly. Anyway, the crowd gave him a big hand. He's got the better of it now, and he's up over the top. We look forward to seeing where he finishes. I'm sure he's going to do well. Anyway, down at the finish line now, the riders are coming through, finishing off this heat in the youth and junior category. And I'm sure all these guys are going to go through till tomorrow's main event. They're heading off for a cold drink. Meanwhile, coming towards us, a man with a major rubber blowout. That's Joseph Derrip. Seems to have lost both shoes. Wonder why? And it sounds like there could be a good story around the campfire tonight with that one.
Talking of good stories, an interviewer is talking to 2 of the riders down on the finishing line.
It was a really good course. It was 4 miles long, which is just about the right length, and there was a few technical sections and a few very fast sections, which makes it interesting.
Okay, with you, some colleagues of yours who raced with you, Chris, was it difficult, the course?
Well, it started off very fast, and once we got up to the top of the obelisk, which is the other side of the valley, it seemed to be all downhill from then, and it was just through the crowds all the way home.
Right, moving on to the next race of the day, it's the sports category. Now, the sports category had well over 400 riders, so we had to break these down into 2 heats. The first heat is, naturally enough, 200 riders who have to complete 3 laps of the course. 100 will qualify. You can see them there all chatting to themselves and getting over the last pre-race tension nerves. Well, we're going to pick this race up a bit further around the course now and pick up the leading riders as they come into the sheep pit.
Right out front at this point in time, Mick Daly, he's 30 years of age, number 4174. He's opened up quite a decent little lead over the number 2 man, who is Glenn Turner, who's coming towards us right now. Glenn's 20 years of age, 10 years he's junior, riding 4175. Look for him towards the end of this event. And coming into sight now, in 3rd position, we had Simon Offord. Simon really went for it as well, riding his Alpine Stars bike. It's been a great day's riding all round, I can tell you, and these guys on their first lap are really giving it their number 1 effort. Coming towards us, I can see at the moment 4 more riders all having a shot, and there amongst them is David Pearce, 20 years of age, 4171, off his bike, and he just pushes it through that little bit of nadgery.
Over at the obelisk, Sean Evans, rider 4140, is coming through and enjoying a nice cold cup of water, which is providing welcome relief before he starts his quick descent down to the staircase. Another rider coming up is Justin Ansell. He's about to take on some more water as well. And you can see from the cups there on the ground how welcome this cool draft was. Of course, there's lots of facilities at Eastnall Park. In fact, they were trying out a unique new parking system for bikes. I don't know if it'll catch on, but it certainly proved very popular with 1 or 2 riders.
Well, all good things must come to an end, and these guys have had the wind running through their hairs for the last couple of few minutes, and now they're coming down into the staircase area. And here's Phil Blacker approaching us right now. He's really going for it, and behind him, Jez Franklin, hands on the brakes, really squeezing hard on those brakes, the back wheel locked up. Remember, of course, technique is all very important at this stage. Lock up the front wheel and it's straight over the top. Some of these riders have already developed tremendous riding skills as the dust is flying on this dusty course here at the MyCycles event. Coming towards us in the yellow you can see Neil Delafield. He's doing quite well, and that whole group of riders seem to be mastering this course, which has been laid out by Kevin Earp. As you get to the end, there's a nasty sting in the tail as well. A quick chicane, a left and a right, and that right is a very vicious one indeed, right down by the tree. Remembering, of course, coming down this hill, you may well have been in a mid-range gear, you wouldn't need it to pedal too much, and right down there, as you go around the hairpin, many riders in previous years dropped their chain, but not that rider. He managed to get through without any hassles whatsoever. And here we are at the Outback Catch-Out, and a tremendous crowd watching riders go through. Here's one right now, Glenn Turner, tremendous exhibition of riding skills, and he's right out of there in one easy movement. Behind him, the riders streaming through in different techniques, some going around, some going up the side, some walking over the top. And nonetheless, they're all heading now down towards the finish line for the end of this first heat in the sports class. With the tail end riders through now, Dave Newman starts the second half of this event. The sports class riders, 200 lead the starting grid, 100 will qualify today. It's a tremendous sight, masses of colour as they head on now up towards the big oak tree and clearing away a nice, clean, easy lead from the riders at the front. And we're going to show you now an aspect of this race you probably haven't seen before, action from the bicycle in the field.
Team Shockwave from Nottingham are showing a good presence. Russell Blake and Ian Potter come herring down from the obelisk, closely followed by Adrian Hill. Now all those cups of water will disappear during the course of this race. The track that leaves the obelisk and comes down towards the staircase is in fact very deeply rutted, although it looks remarkably smooth from this camera angle. Now Geoffrey Rees is coming down to the hairpin out of the staircase, down through the cogs and pulls away. And he's closely followed by David Harmon, who's treating these bends with the greatest amount of respect. It's probably the first time most of these riders have pedalled after leaving the obelisk, and they're suddenly realising, some of them, that they're in the wrong gear. At the Outback catch-out, the spectators are waiting for the sports riders to entertain them as they pass through, some taking the challenge of the mud and some taking the bank. We've got Tony Bone dropping down into it, again taking it very carefully, closely followed by Paul Ainley. At the start-finish area, the sports riders are now finishing this heat, and of course the first 100 riders will be going through to the finals on Sunday. But some of the spectators are enjoying this fantastic surroundings and superb weather.
It got to be so damn tough.
In the mix.
The British.
In the mix.
The world.
In the mix.
The world's #1.
Turn it up.
Get on up.
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 Turn it up.
The British.
Championships.
Check this out.
Turn it up.
The organisers pride themselves in running an exciting and injury-free racing event. However, there's always one or two who seem to run out of luck just when they need it most. Now, here's two likely-looking characters. What on earth happened to you?
Well, I was halfway up the Outback catch-out, pushing my bike on through the mud, and then I was just standing there and I heard a click, and I fell back, my bike fell on me, and I looked down and my leg was sticking out of the knee socket, and so I shouted a couple of times, and then someone came down to help me, and I lay there for a little while until the paramedics came, and then plenty of gas was given, and I was put into the ambulance, and then rushed off to the hospital where they quickly snapped it back into the socket.
But was your bike okay?
Yeah, I made sure it was okay before I went.
And how did you do it?
I was coming down, I came into the bomb hole, which I didn't even know was there, and because it was a bit dusty, and I came out there, pulled massive air. As I went past the crowd, I was looking over their heads, and then came down head first over the handlebars and cracked my collarbone, broken it. Rushed off to hospital, and just in time to hear his knee being put back in. That's it really. The bike, though, being an orange, was completely unscathed.
So in that case, it's time to celebrate and wind down with aerobics, lake leaping, bunny hopping and partying. But first...
Do it. Do it. Do it.
Oh, I didn't do it. Let's do
do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Oh, I didn't do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Oh. Oh.
I didn't do it.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
I didn't do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
And out on the lake there's a duck just about to be done like a dog's dinner. The lake leaping has just begun. The captain and his evil crew of marksmen and pirates out there on the lake are now marking each and every one of the scores as the riders leap into the water for all the crowd's entertainment. They're marking them for height and for distance, and the crowd is taking a very active approval of all the riders as they go through. And here's one of the contestants right now. He's trying to cajole the crowd to give him a bigger and more impressive public approval quota.
And so the sun rose on the finals day at the British Mountain Bike Championships at Malvern. By 10 a.m. the car park was filling rapidly and queues of over a mile long were reported at the gates. Over the 3 days, more than 10,000 people visited the event, and Sunday was by far the busiest day as many came to see superb riding by some of the world's greatest mountain bikers. First event of the day was the Fun Men. Of course, this final contains 150 riders. They've got 2 laps to do. That's another 8 miles. They did it yesterday in the heats, but today it's for real. And the adrenaline's pumping along with their legs as they work their way up towards the oak tree before moving round to the back of the lake to the My Cycles climb. Now, the next final to start starts 3 minutes later. That's the youth final. They too have got to do 2 laps. Again, 8 miles. And if you look closely, you've got the 3 winning riders actually on the front row of this race. You have to remember, of course, that these riders are all aged between 12 and 15 years, and between them, they represent the future of mountain biking. Right, we're going to leave the youth class for a moment and turn our attention to the start line once again, where a few moments later we've got the start of the Fun Women. That's 70 riders, 2 laps, 8 miles, the same as the 2 previous classes, and they're certainly out to prove themselves. And the front riders clear the grid easily, but the back markers have got 1 or 2 problems as they try and sort out their positions before entering this race in full swing. Now, this is the largest number of women riders ever entered in a fun category, and we'll see how they perform a bit later on in this video.
And over by the sheep pit now, we've got the first of the fun class riders coming towards us. In the rally colours, Jerry Angrave just goes through the camera right there. It's very dusty out there at the moment, and more of the riders coming towards us, and I can see some of the youth class riders at this stage. It's about 80 degrees, they tell me. Jim Perkins I can see as well, actually, going through. As I said, it's about 80 degrees out there at the moment, and it's not predicted to be much cooler during the course of the day.
Well, how are the Fun Women getting on? Well, we've got Sarah Adams here, who's showing us how to dismount in a nice, clean, efficient manner. Take the bike round the dirty, soggy bit, jump over the dip, scramble up the bank, and away you go. She's closely followed by Sarah Shuttleworth, who's showing new riding techniques from women riders. First of all, she throws the bike on the ground, then she picks a shoe out of the soggy bit, places it in her mouth to attempt the climb. But no, she prefers it in the bog. Now, further down the catch-out, we've got another artful dodger who can't decide between the high road and the low road, but he successfully negotiates it without getting too soggy. We've got James Bennis there, who's decided to part company with his bike, throw it up and climb up afterwards. But now it's Joe Skelton, who's decided there's only 1 puddle on the whole course, and he is going to go through it. There you are, it can be done. And now down to Greg at the start-finish.
At the completion of the first lap, the lead riders in the fun class are hammering down through the start-finish, showing that they've got lots and lots of energy left in those legs yet. Over by the roller coaster, young William Cogger goes past us, and I wonder what's happening with some of the other riders. Here's one coming now. I wonder how he feels.
Oh, I'm having fun, I tell you.
Well, there you go. He's having fun. Well, I'm having fun as well. Anyway, here we're going down through the staircase now, and a few of the women riders are coming towards us. Right here in front of us, Sarah Howard, 1563, and behind her I can see Anne Castle. She looks like a picture of concentration. Meanwhile, down at the outback catch-out, we've got some very interesting riding techniques. There's a man proving that he has ground controls and lost control as he aquaplanes across the bog and manages to get up the bank in a bit of a scrambling fashion. More riders deciding to take the low road as opposed to the high road, and that was David Broniman, and he was the eventual winner in this class. And there's quite a decent amount of technique there as well. And there's young Robert Thackeray, who was the 3rd place in the youth category as well, riding for the Bike UK team. And now we've got Karen Priest and Sarah Cartmell. Remember, Sarah Cartmell was 1st in this class, and she's just making it up the bank right now. Well, that concludes the racing in the fun men, women and youth categories. Let's see how the top 8 riders in each class finished. Junior category right now, and down there in the middle of the front row of the grid, Richard Thackeray in the all-yellow stripper of the Pace Research team, and he's off and really racing from the start. Naturally, he's got the eye on that British Championship jersey And of course there's a lot of other riders out there willing to take it off him today. And here they go, streaming away from the start. And meanwhile, back at the starting line, I've got Bob.
Yes, thanks, Greg. As the junior riders make their way to Cannondale Ridge, we've got the sportsmen. That's 200 riders starting off for a clean start. They've got 4 laps to do today. That's 16 miles as opposed to their 3 laps yesterday. And they're certainly all out to impress and win some very, very valuable and natty prizes. Within minutes, you can see they've spread themselves out over 200 or 300 metres. And if we look over now to the My Cycles climb, we can see just what it's like to be riding in a race with 200 cyclists. Now back to the start area, we've got Greg with the sportswomen.
Right, the sportswomen are off now on the first of their 3 laps of this course. That's a total of 12 miles. And in the front row of the grid, I saw Helen Edmonds, who was to do very well in the finals of this event. And going over the top of the tabletop right now, John Samways, and right behind him are other riders from the GA team. Looks like it doesn't prove so difficult as the race wears on. These guys seem to have lots and lots of ability and certainly a great deal of technique. It's certainly warming up here, I can tell you right now, and lots of riders are starting to sweat profusely as they make it up to this section. The riders at the back of the course are going just a little bit slower. At this point, that was the junior class riders going through, and now we've got the sports class riders really filling in the rest of the echelon behind those riders. As it gets a little crowded on that point, people jump off. Meanwhile, here we go. That's Richard Thackeray there. He's the eventual winner of this event, and behind him, Paul Lazenby, right on his tail. 2 of the best riders at the event during the course of the weekend. Ben Dale and Alan Gunner going through as well, picking the high route and the low route, and both of them through very, very comprehensively around that section. And here's another rider who's decided to run it up there, and he gets back on very quickly indeed. This rider is really straining on the bars, putting on a great performance, and the crowd appreciates that, and they give him the big hand as well. And here we go. Whoa, that was Mick Daly nearly cleaning us up just then in the camera position. And right behind him, Glenn Turner, riding for the Rocky Mountain crew, and he's over the top of that little rise. No problems whatsoever, he just jumps it up. There goes Mark James riding in the Team Z clothing. That's the clothing from the French children's wear company. And 2 more riders nearly collide, and this one goes face down. That's a GA Cycles rider as well. Very big team, the GA Cycles team from Southampton. Anyway, the dust is rising on the course. A lot of the riders are really going for it, and there's one who just decides to go off into the crowd. Maybe he's heading off down to the pub for an early beer.
The sportswomen are doing well coming through. There's Helen Edmonds coming through the bomb hole. She's closely followed by Angela Hunter, who's proving her capabilities there. There's Tracy Hardcastle, and close behind her is the eventual 5th place, Rachel Gamble. Further 200 metres down the course, we've got the outback catch-out, and there's Helen Edmonds as she comes round the soggy section to pull herself out. I know that's Helen Edmonds because I'm actually cycling right behind her and commentating at the same time. In 2nd place, we've got Angela Hunter, who recovers after a fall, and she too pulls herself out successfully from the catch-out. Close to the camera there, we've got Adrian Sidford. She's just come through, and there's Tracy Hardcastle riding in the distinctive Fisher Mountain Strip.
So to finish the racing, the last riders head down Juggler's Drop, a real fast descent into the start-finish line. Let's have a look at the final results in the sports men, women's and the junior categories.
The Outback MyCycles Malvern Hills Classic has been 3 days of fun, entertainment and the best in competitive mountain biking. The grand finale is about to begin to decide the UK national men and women's champion for 1991. We gathered together the hot favourites and asked them for their opinions and views on how they saw their own particular race.
It's quite hard on a course like this. There could be like a group of 4 or 5 riders together on the first couple of laps, and then it starts splitting up after a few laps. But then there again, myself or Tim might make it hard right from the gun and just like split it up early doors.
I'm pretty confident. I've missed a bit of training through my injury, but everybody knows about that by now. But I seem to be going all right last week, and I was going all right the 2 weeks previous to that. So all systems go.
Difficult. It's quite a long race, so you know if things do split up, there's always mechanical trouble with it being 7 laps and such a a little bit tricky work on it and everything. I think if you do have mechanical trouble, the basic just to stay out of trouble and keep on going, keeping a reasonable pace going all the way around.
Not necessarily too fast on the descents to try and not punch it.
And just pulling things back, basically, staying out of trouble is a big thing.
I think it'll be extremely competitive. I think it's going to be a survival of the strongest at the end of 5 laps. But hopefully it'll be a close race. I mean, there's a lot of very good girls up there now, and it should be quite exciting for the spectators.
Tim Gould and Davey Baker, in theory, should be going for first place, and then it's more of a battle for third place. But you never know, if they're going for first and second, then maybe I can capitalise on the competition between those two.
Well, I haven't been here long, but what I can see so far is really good. Last year was a very good event, and it's been put on by the same people, the same place, so I'm sure it'll be even better with the added prestige of a national championship.
And he picked the red lane, the fast of the 2 lanes. He's really going for it at the moment. And Joy opens up a good 10 or 12 metre lead over.
Right, this is the big one, the race for the British National Mountain Bike Champion for 1991. And already David Baker has shown a clean pair of heels to the rest of the riders on the front grid. Beside him we've got Gary Howell, and beside him again, Tim Gould. It's been a great race already, and already these riders are starting to spread out a little bit, and we can see them now as they pass through the stream in Giro Drop, heading up to the MyCycles climb. And on the MyCycles climb, we've got Dave Baker, but right beside him there's that Gary Howell again from Olympia Condor. He's overtaking him on this stiff climb, and behind them Barry Clark as they head up towards the top and the rounding point onto Cannondale Ridge. Just coming into shot now, you've got Paul Hinton making a strong 2-3-4 showing for Rally. Well, the positions have changed just slightly now at the drink station, and already Tim Gould has moved into 4th position.
Down at the start of the expert men, they're well away, and they're away fast. A few well-known names we can see in there. There's Ben Wilson, James Hardy, who won the downhill slalom on Friday, Kevin Clark, Steve Hume, last year's winner, and there's Mark Gornall there from Manchester Wheeler rider, who I believe is a frequent winner of the Star Trophy events. So we'll see how he performs today. They've of course got 5 laps to go. That's 20 miles on this tough course, and plenty can happen in that time. So let's hand back down to the start for the start of the Masters race.
Right, here we go, and away they start already, and the big hot favourite out there, no doubt, is going to be Mick Ives. He's done it just about every year now. Mick's riding for the Scott Tourlake team, but Alan Winters has started very well as well, and as has Mel Haig. Now they're already going down through the Giro Drop and be heading up very shortly on the MyCycles climb. Behind them again, we've got the start of the Veterans event. Now the Veterans are riders up to 50 years of age, and this is a very big field here indeed, and probably the biggest field in the UK. The big hitters out there today, Dave McMullen riding for Cycle Systems and Les Lloyd for Overbreeze.
And the elite women are away. Very strong field this year. Caroline Alexander's had a very good year so far, so she's feeling a bit of a hot favourite.
See the first of the elite riders coming through, and that was Barry Clark for Team Rally, leading out a rather strong competition from Tim Gould and David Baker, side by side once again, and both of them not giving any quarter. Now moving back across now to Mudcam, and we can follow the rider ahead of us and see some of the actions that's necessary to get you up this rather tough and stiff climb. You can see the legs of the rider turning over ever so slowly. It's a very steep climb indeed. Even the hardened elite riders will find it hard going on Commodore. Gould, however, is best known as a climber, and if he's going to get away, he'll do it right here. Still, there's lots of life left in those legs looking at those riders coming up towards us right now. There's a whole mixture of riders, both from veterans and masters categories. Coming towards us right now in the red, as you'll see, is Alan Winters. Now, Alan's going to do very well overall in this event, and we believe he's going to come in the top 5. Going past us there, we've got Oscar Hopkins, and right behind in the old stager, Tom Eisel. Right, we're going to pick the action up now at the bomb hole, and the first man through is Tim Gould, keeping his wheels pretty close to the ground, although still got a little bit of air at that point. Now, these expert and elite class riders are so good, but it's no need to take air, it just loses time, so they try and stay on the ground as much as possible. You don't get much action over here if you're a spectator. You don't find these guys falling off very often. Well, that's all part of being a good bike rider.
It has to be said, I think, that everybody is amazed at Tim Gould's recovery time from a broken collarbone. It seems only 2 or 3 months ago that he had that accident in America, and he's certainly performing now, lapping all the expert riders ahead of him. In second place, we've got Barry Clark, closely followed by David Baker. In third place, and then in fourth place, we've got Paul Hinton with Fred Salmon bringing up the rear for Peugeot. Of course, Rally Team are showing very, very strong at the moment in Rally Team formation. The lead group of expert riders coming up towards us. There's Stuart Marshall there, riding for the Magnum Race Team. Tim Flukes, Mark Gornall, he's riding in the blue and white. Steve Hume in the yellow, he eventually comes in third place. And there's Jason McCroy and Dave Smith pulling up behind him. Not far behind them are another group of riders. There's Roy Brown and Chris May going through. And a bit further down the field, we've got some riders there, including Andrew Begg and Martin Lander. They're probably at one of the most awkward parts of the track at the moment. As they take the top part of the My Cycles climb there onto the Cannondale Ridge, there's a southerly breeze that hits them straight in the face, and if they're starting to feel a bit weary, then that's the place it will really slow them down.
Approaching Giro drop now, we've got Rufus Sidford and Graham Boutel going through. Graham riding in the vet category and Rufus in the experts. Well, Rufus is going to pick up the wooden spoon, I'm told. He's the last man in the experts category today. Meanwhile, up at the front, there's Tim Gould once again, looking as fresh as he was when he started the event 4 laps ago. Lots of action still taking place, and we're looking forward to seeing the next of the riders through in this category, and there he is. It's Fred Salmon, Tim Gould's teammate. What's ever happened to David Baker and Barry Clark? Well, rounding the lake now by the Commodore climb, we've got 2 Masters class riders coming towards us, having a really hot battle. Remember, of course, these guys are over 50 years of age and up to just about any age. Coming into view now, Sally Hibbard. Yes, she's leading the ladies category in the women's elite class and doing it in fine style indeed. She's well away from everyone else. All right, coming in the sight right now, Francesco Gamadoni. Yes, an Italian from Wales, of all places, riding in the colours of Schmooze Cycles. He's given it heaps up Commodore climb. And there's Mike Evans. He's a vet. He's taking on some fluid. I'm sure he needs it. It's been really warm out there today. And 2 more riders coming towards us. These are expert class riders. Looks like in the second place in the yellow, Alan Knight, yes, riding for GA Cycles. And coming into view right now, we've got 7017, that's Ray Claridge, and behind him, Martin Lander. They're both moving pretty freely, as are these riders now coming into view. Seems quite amazing that at the end of this event, after almost 20 miles by these guys, things are going so well for them.
And after 7 laps, there's Tim Gould going down on his final descent. And would you believe it's Sally Hibbard finishing on the same lap? Now there's a bit of coincidence for you. Sally Hibbard looking remarkably fresh after 5 laps, 20 miles of grueling pace. She's kept a very, very good lead over the second and third place riders. So she too is going down for a final descent. And this is what it can be like from a low angle. Look at the speed these bikes get up to. A lot of controls needed as they rattle round the bends and down that final juggler's drop before the left-handed bend to the finish area. So now let's just follow in Tim Gould with Mudcam and see just what it's like to finish and become a British champion. His arms are raised, the crowd's going wild, listen to them, all roaring his praises as he pulls in there down to his sponsors and his teammates, all patting him on the back and congratulating him on such a fantastic ride. And here's Sally, she's coming down to the finish line too. Quick bunny hop, Sal. Well, perhaps not Jez Avery, but she's working on it. And she's going to be wearing the much coveted British Championship jersey for the next 12 months. And I'm sure she's going to feel extremely proud. She's proved her worth on this extremely tough course over 5 grueling laps.
It'll be 15 minutes before the last of the competitors are through the finishing line, but we must say that it's been a tremendous day for all those who've ridden. I'm sure even though they cross the line now, they're all smiling to themselves and congratulating themselves on their abilities to get around this really tough course. With 1,500 riders, 10,000 spectators, it's been the largest mountain bike event of its kind anywhere in the world. We hope you've appeared on the video, but we must apologise. It's not always easy to get everyone in the shot, but if you aren't in the shot, well, maybe you can come back next year and you might be lucky then. Remember, next year, same time, same place, sometime in August, here in East Nor in the fantastic Malvern Hills. And here are the final race positions of the categories we've just been watching. The organisers and sponsors, Outback and My Cycles, would like to thank the British Mountain Bike Federation for their invaluable support in staging this event. Who knows, with a team like this, Britain may well win one of the World Championship titles this year. So it's just left for me, Greg Oxenham.
And me, Bob Cartwright, to say, see you next year.
Bye-bye.
Got to be so damn tough.
In the mix.
The British.
In the mix.
The world.
In the mix.
The world's #1.
Turn it up.
Get on up.
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 Turn it up.
The British
Championship.